Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to a Sunday conversation with Jim Stovall. Jim is the director of the Mediation Institute. He's responsible for saving a lot of marriages from going through the whole messy divorce process. And how are you doing, Jim?
Doing good, Tim.
Thanks for joining us. Now, what exactly is the Mediation Institute? What do you all do over there?
Well, we offer services to couples. In many cases, there's already been a decision to divorce, or it's a post-divorce matter. So, for example, in some cases, a couple, they may have been divorced for a couple of years, but they're having difficulty maybe in regard to their children, maybe visitation problems, maybe child support problems. What we do is we help couples to reach an agreement and avoid the time and expense of going to trial and the whole legal battle that can oftentimes take place. Sometimes mediation helps couples stay together. Most of the time, what we do is to help them to reach the terms of an agreement that everybody can live with.
So how do you get your clients? Do a judge refer them to you? Do they just walk into your office saying, I need help?
Yeah, cases get to mediation from a variety of different perspectives. The judges have been referring cases to mediation here in Oklahoma for about 15 years now, and they've been very pleased with the results because in many cases, judges don't like to make those difficult decisions. In many cases, they find themselves dealing with what they might consider to be petty disagreements and things like that. So oftentimes, judges will refer cases to mediation. Most attorneys view mediation favorably. In other words, they want to help their clients work things out. Mediation is not a replacement for legal advice, and so in many cases, an attorney will refer cases to mediation to help their clients sometimes get beyond the difficult emotional issues that might be causing a problem. And then sometimes people will self-refer. So they find themselves in the middle of a difficult situation, and they'll come to the Mediation Institute. In other cases, people might be referred to mediation by a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist, or a minister or a clergy person can also suggest mediation as a peaceful way to try to work things out.
Do you only mediate when it comes to divorces, or do you mediate when you're trying to help someone save a marriage or before the marriage starts, like pre-marriage counseling?
Yeah, we do some of both. We also mediate with organizations. We mediate employer-employee disputes and real estate disputes and a wide variety of other types of mediation. But our bread and butter is a situation, again, where the couple has made a decision to divorce and they're trying to make some difficult decisions. Lots of times people come in feeling like they're in an impossible situation, that the other side is totally unreasonable and that nothing can be done here. And oftentimes having a neutral third party present changes the tenor of the conversation, it changes the mood of things, and mediation brings out the best in people. People rise to the occasion and they're able to deal with one another in a respectful way.
So now you've counseled numerous couples over the years. Was there any couple that stuck out in your mind that this couple is loony, like there's no help for them whatsoever?
Well, let me just say, first of all, that in about 4 out of 5 cases where people sit down together, they are able to work out an agreement. Now, there have been some very difficult cases where I have served as a mediator where people were not able to reach an agreement. In some cases, in one case I think of, the mom decided to take the kids to California, and the dad was deeply connected to the children, and so it was a very painful process to watch it unfold. There are other situations where they might be arguing over the value of a business, and sometimes they end up in court and they end up spending sometimes tens of thousands of dollars litigating over things that could have been worked out in a couple of hours in mediation. So, people do make bad decisions. When people are going through a divorce, or for that matter, when they're in conflict, they're often really stressed out, and they're really, it doesn't bring out the best behavior in the world. And so sometimes people do crazy things, or things that may seem unreasonable if you're not caught up in the conflict yourself. But for the most part, again, mediation helps people to think more clearly about their situation and to communicate respectfully, and also to think about the long term. when a couple gets divorced, if they have children, they're still going to have a relationship. And it's really important that we help them to take a look at how they're going to be able to cooperate for a long time after the divorce. And that's one of the great strengths of mediation, is it helps to build that ability to communicate that's so important after a divorce.
Do you ever take any cases very personal sometimes, like you're staying up all night worried about the outcome of the situation?
Yeah, let me say I've been through a divorce myself, and I really know how difficult these cases are. And I've dealt with someone that I felt like was unreasonable, and so these things do get pretty personal for me sometimes, and it is a challenge to let go of these things, because I do work hard to help people work things out, and it always feels good when I'm able to succeed. And again, in most cases, we do.
Have you ever counseled any famous couples, any local celebrities, high-profile divorces?
Well, can't mention any names. Mediation is a confidential process.
It's just me and you.
I know, right.
I
understand. Now, one of the great benefits of mediation is that you don't have to air your dirty laundry in public. If you go to trial, and a lot of embarrassing things happen to people when they go to trial or when they're in court, because it is so public. So in mediation, it's usually just me and the couple, and sometimes their lawyers will be a part of the discussion also. But I have done mediation with some prominent people here in Oklahoma. In a few cases, some very wealthy people who they were dividing up property, and believe me, when you have put a lot of life energy into trying to build a business or accumulate some wealth, you don't part with that very easily, and so people really do find things to fight about, and sometimes divorce brings out the worst in people. But again, so in mediation, we work to take a bad situation and make the best of it.
So how many years have you been doing this overall?
I've been doing mediation for 20 years.
And what made you decide to get into a profession like this?
Well, many years ago, I actually spent some time living in some other countries. I lived in Egypt and India and Indonesia. And I encountered a lot of communication problems, as you might imagine, living in places where people's primary language is not English. And so when I came back, I learned that I could sometimes hear things that other people couldn't hear, in terms of picking up on difficult communications, or listening for where was communication breaking down. So initially, I started working with groups and organizations, trying to facilitate consensus around different problems, and then I got into mediation from there, and found that many of the skills were much the same.
All right, Jim, thanks for being with us today. I appreciate all
Thanks,
your
Tim.
time for coming up here. And thank you for tuning in to a Sunday Conversation with Jim Stovall. For more information about Jim, you could pick up today's edition of the Oklahoman, or you can go to their website at www.mediationinstitute.net, or call 607-8914. Thanks for tuning in.